can't lose. No, we can't lose.
Enjoy it while it lasts. Gambling gods, fickle bunch.
Oh, yeah.
So easily affected.
We have a shooter and a good one coming out for a new point. Get your bets down, ladies and gentlemen. He's a rolling point is 9, place 9. 9 a winner. Got a hot hand. Place your bets, ladies and gentlemen.
They bet on absolutely anything. Don't make them prove.
Should we say this on air or off air? Because, man, if I say it on air, man, I get so many people going to get jumped down my throat.
You're tuned in to Gambling with Good Juju.
Welcome in, everybody, to Gambling with Good Juju, the show that gambles more than Sharon Moore on OnlyFans. Hey, while we kick things off, do us a favor and head on over to YouTube and click the subscribe button for us. Following along on your favorite podcast platform, then give us a follow and rate 5 stars. We can be found on the socials at Good Juju Bets, and if you really like us, then head on over to goodjujubets.net, click on the merch shop, and show your support. On today's episode, we're talking with friend of the show and our favorite college sports handicapper, Mike Montesano. We're going to preview the college football playoffs, talk a little college hoops, and discuss ways we might supercharge the mucho dinero answer key. Mike, to kick things off, I have a confession. I could not have possibly been made to look dumber than my harping to you for multiple months leading up to the season about Indiana. Not Indiana, Indiana, because I'm mad at them. Yeah. You had Illinois well below Indiana in your power rankings coming into this year, and I was scoffing at the idea that my Illini were supposedly worse than this Fernando Mendoza and his very punchable face. So what was it? Explain to me how you knew this Indiana team was legit and my Illini were not serious contenders.
I think it just has to do with an overall power rating that you created at the beginning of the summer. I mean, and if you look back at last year, Illinois, you know, they were good, but they weren't that good. They weren't that good according to all the metrics. So you kind of adjust from there. You look at the transfer portal, what's coming in. You look at the coaches, and you look at a ton of things, and just, you know, you knew Indiana wasn't going to fall that far off from last year. And not that Illinois fell off; they just weren't as talented as Indiana was. And I think obviously we're not all seeing it now. Cignetti's he's the man. He knows what he's doing.
He's the real deal. Is it a talent thing? Was Illinois' talent not really to where they were projected as a team?
I think it was close. I'd have to go back and look at my talent ratings off the top of my head, but I mean, if you watch that 60-minute 60 Minutes with Cignetti the other night, he was just, I mean, he talks about fundamentals all the time. It's all about fundamentals. There is no magic to it. And he preaches, and he has a system. And if he has a coaching staff that's been with him for years and years and years, and I think they just gave the defensive coordinator like a big contract extension and a big raise, because those guys are all loyal to him. He's got the strength and conditioning coach that's gone up to the ranks with him, his coordinators, his special teams coach, and so on. And I do think that plays a big part in an overall program. And in this day and age with the portal, we've seen teams spend a lot of money that don't do well. We've seen teams like Texas Tech spend a boatload of money, and they're in the CFP. And how much money is Indiana spending to someone like Texas Tech? I don't think it's as much. So I think it's what they do on a day-to-day basis, the process of everything, and not to take anything away from Illinois and their process. It's just Indiana is head and shoulders right now above a lot of teams in the Big Ten.
So I read an article recently that said Indiana has maybe the shortest practices in all of college football, and they focus more on keeping their players fresh. What do you think of that methodology?
Interesting.
I think you're seeing a lot more of that in the college sports because it's such a grind. I mean, you're talking basketball. A lot of these teams are playing over the summer. They're practicing a lot over the summer, and then official practices start at the end of September. And it's about recovery now. The days of the Pat Riley, NBA 3-hour shoot-arounds before a game are over. They're trying to keep these kids as fresh as possible. The nutrition plays a big part of it, and I'm all for it. I didn't happen to read that article about Indiana doing that, but it's if you can if you're like practicing for like an hour and a half, and while other teams are 2.5, if you're getting done in an hour and a half, what you need to get done, and you can keep those guys fresh, that's great.
Do you think Indiana's the best team? I
think they're power rated the best team. I think they were a couple plays away from losing to Ohio State. And I still think they have a monumental task ahead of them. If Texas Tech, which I do believe, I'm sure we'll talk about, I do believe Texas Tech will get by Oregon. That's a big. That'll be a big task for them. I mean, to get by Texas Tech. I think if they get to the championship game, though, I think they'll win it. It's just I think they have as the one seed. I think they have the toughest road, though.
I mean, if Cignetti can do it at Indiana, that guy can literally do it anywhere. That program, I mean, you don't know college football very well.
No.
They have been nothing ever. Like even Illinois has some bright spots in their history.
Sure.
He went into Indiana after James Madison and just immediately made them as close to a contender with SEC and Big Ten teams as you can possibly be. It's been absolutely crazy. So, yeah, I'm really interested. All the kids in my household are excited for Indiana. I'm a little bit on the fence because it just feels like it could have been us. It could have been Illinois.
Like you mean literally your children are excited for them?
They are.
Yeah.
My kids made me go bet on Indiana because I had a promo and I was like, all right, who do you want me to pick to win the CFP? So I'm cheering for the same teams as you. And they said Indiana. I go, well, I'll add that to my Texas Tech position, thanks to Mike. So
there you go.
We'll see who's right, my children or Mike Montesano. No, we'll get into. I'm not saying you. We'll get into this a little bit more. Before we get into that, though, how did your CFP season go from a wagering standpoint?
It went pretty well. I mean, the sides and totals and a couple in-game plays I've made. They were really, really hot, and then the last couple of weeks we're a little squirrely in the regular season, but it is what it is. But the futures were fantastic. The conference futures, did very well, and that's what's given me most of my profit this year. Shameless plug: if you go to my X account, I do post a lot of stuff there on my X account, and if you go to my Substack, I released everything in July and August for my futures, and I'll continue to do that.
You posted 2 plays on Twitter that I tailed you for the CFP games. What were they?
James Madison plus the 21.5 and Miami of Florida plus the 3.5.
Yep. I got both of them. So I'm set on
I think
both
the
those
line,
positions.
I think Miami's gone down to 3 now. And I have to double check. It might be 21 now for Oregon, James Madison game. But I mean, my numbers called for both of them in that game. And I was trying to make a case for I always try to sometimes make a case for the opposite side, but once I kept hearing more and more people, Oregon, they're going to win the national championship. They're going to move on. Oh, they have extra motivation because they lost last year. And I think I tweeted this out. I don't know what that means at this time of year, what extra motivation is. How do you quantify that? Every team is motivated. If you want to talk to me from a talent perspective, that's why you're taking Oregon. But all the ratings incorporate that now. And, I have 3 or 4 sets of numbers that I use, a main number and some other numbers that I kind of keep to myself. And then they're all pointing towards James Madison plus the 21.5. So we'll see. I mean, I could look like a bozo, and Oregon wins by 56. So we'll see.
Can't wait to find out.
Yeah, I'm excited. So
I tell you what, that Miami game is going to be fantastic. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, but Miami has all the talent in the world, and I was not impressed with A&M's last couple of games. I just was not impressed with them at all. How are you down $1 million to South Carolina at home, and then you needed a miracle comeback to win that? And I know Texas is good, really talented. They have 3 losses this year, but you didn't play well at all against Texas either.
if you had your way, how many teams would you put in the playoff?
Good question.
I think what is the FCS? Do they do 6 or they do 24? Or they do 16?
They do something pretty big. You like it. You want to go bigger.
If you go bigger, you got to eliminate the conference championship games. I know they're a money grab, but if you're going to go to 16, let's eliminate the conference championship games. And I'm all for the group of 5 getting 1 in. If you go bigger, there's got to be some rules set, like, you have to finish in the top 15 or something like that. I don't know. It's just to have 2 of them in. And this is from the guy who had. I love it because I had 10-1 back in August on James Madison just to make the college football playoff. But do they deserve to be in? I think they deserve to be in more over Tulane, but Tulane's from a bigger conference, but 2 in now. And I don't know. So let's go to 16 and see how it goes. Yeah. But eliminate the conference championship games, though.
Well, they don't seem to serve any. They seem to be a detriment to any of the teams that are actually playing in them. Unless you're Alabama.
If you lose, unless you're Alabama.
Unless you are owned by ESPN.
Yeah, right.
Oh, don't get me started.
That's the other problem that I keep running into here, Mike. I'm a Big Ten fan, and they have contracts with CBS, NBC, and Fox. And it's like this whole entity, I had to explain to him how the NCAA has nothing to do with the college football playoff. It's an ESPN property. So how is this reasonable when they're actively pushing for the conferences they have relationships with? I don't know.
It's not reasonable. I mean, for Alabama not to drop after getting smashed by Georgia and then BYU to just completely be, thanks for coming, we'll see ya. It makes no sense whatsoever. And then we all listen. I understand head-to-head Notre Dame. Now, this is from a guy who had a 40-1 ticket on Notre Dame from back in September. I was a little upset that they didn't get in. I kept pushing. I was like, well, they're not going to not put them in. They're ahead of Miami. There must be some reason. And then at the last second, they change them and flip it. Like, if you knew this in a head-to-head, put Miami ahead of Notre Dame at the beginning. Well, no matter what they did from the first the first rankings. I know and let's get rid of six of these rankings. Can we just do 2 so we're not talking about all this stuff and seeing who's maneuvering? Just do 2 of them.
Yep.
The 6 is ridiculous because that's the gripe that Notre Dame has, and they have everything. They should be upset. We were ahead of Miami the whole time, and all of a sudden there's no data points in the last week in the conference championship games, and we get moved behind them. Doesn't make any sense.
I'm in. 16 teams, no conference championships. You just sold me. I was going to say 8, but even at 8, you still have the conference championship problem. And obviously they're not, I'm saying in a perfect world, obviously they're never going backwards now. Well, maybe we can just stop at 16. That would be cool.
Yeah, stop at 16.
Also, half my family went to Illinois State. So your little commentary about the FCS playoffs, I've been following it this year. Okay, what positions are you currently sitting on for the CFP outside those games?
Right now, I have Texas Tech at 11-1 to win the national championship. That's the only, as I said, I had Notre Dame earlier, but obviously they're not in it. And I'm all in on Texas Tech. I think they're one of the most underrated and undervalued 4 seeds that we've seen in quite some time. Their defense is outstanding. They have an underrated quarterback in Morton. I mean, they've been blowing out teams left and right. They really haven't need his services late in game just to throw the ball around a lot. As solid of a defensive line that we've seen in several years, and hey, they went out and they spent some money and they're getting their money's worth. So I mean, you cannot run on them, and if you can get to the quarterback, they have they have some great linebackers as well. The Rodriguez kid, I think he was like a top 10 finalist for the Heisman. I think that's who it was, right? The linebacker. They tried to get him some touchdowns at the end of the year. It was funny to try to push him in. I heard they should have thought about that at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, I love that.
I love this Texas Tech team. As I think I mentioned earlier, I had them to win the Big 12 championship way back in when I sent it out on my Substack in July. I was on a numbers game with Gil. I gave that out at plus 650, and they just they steamrolled the Big 12 this year.
So if we put all the odds aside, do you think Texas Tech is the best team in the field?
I don't think they're the best team in the field. I personally still think Ohio State's the best team.
Okay.
They've been power rated number 1 all year, and just because Indiana beats them the kicker misses a 24-yard field goal. He misses it. What if he makes it and it goes into overtime? Then what happens there? We don't know.
I make hundreds of more dollars, Mike. That's what happens. I lost a lot on that kick.
And what if Mendoza doesn't complete that pass?
Right.
Does Ohio State get the ball back and they're able to come down again? And does he win the Heisman? There's a lot of what ifs with that. But I still think Ohio State is the best team, not by much over Indiana or Texas Tech. But if I were to make a second wager, which I don't think I am, I'm just going to ride out Texas Tech. I would say, and I think last year I told you I liked Ohio State too.
Yeah, you sure did. Yeah, we didn't bet it. I don't know why we have these conversations and I always end up picking the wrong thing that we talk about or whatever. I don't know why I didn't bet Ohio State, and I didn't bet Florida. We'll get into that as well later for college basketball.
Digging up old wounds there.
Do not bet Florida for basketball this year.
I will not. I will not. So is there any value on the board right now? Because I saw Texas Tech's odds have come down a little.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking right now. I mean, if you want to ride with Miami, I mean, I would maybe, because I think they're going to beat Texas A&M, and then they're going to play Ohio State. Like I said, I like Ohio State, but value-wise with the number, Miami might be the best value because they're top 5 in talent. They're top 5 in talent, but unfortunately, they have a head coach that you just cannot trust. But I was impressed with them after they lost to Louisville. They seemed a little bit buttoned up instead of winning close games against teams they should have blown out. They did blow them all out, so I was kind of impressed with that. But I just don't trust Mario in a big spot. But the value probably just on pure talent alone, I would say Miami.
You haven't mentioned any SEC teams. Do you think they're down? What do you think of the SEC here? They have 5 teams in.
Yeah, I'm not. I was high on Alabama earlier in the year. I'm definitely not high on them now. I don't know what's going on with Ty Simpson. I had a Heisman ticket on him that looked great the first 7 or 8 weeks, and then he fell off the face of the earth. They have no running game whatsoever, and I think that's putting a lot of pressure on him. I don't think their play calling has been particularly great, and DeBoer, I don't know. I'm not sure if I trust him in a big spot either. Ole Miss, talent, but no Lane. I don't trust them with no Lane. Georgia, I'm hearing a lot of love for Georgia. I don't know. Did you guys watch the Georgia Tech game? They didn't look like a national championship winning team. Again, it's one data point, but maybe they were keeping it all in for the Alabama game, and maybe they were doing that. But I don't know. They should have lost to Mississippi earlier in the year. I'm not sold on Georgia. Oklahoma, no way.
No. They don't belong. I don't understand why Oklahoma's in. Like, to be honest with you, that seems like the weakest team out of these major teams that's in.
They needed like a miracle touchdown against LSU or they would have been out. I mean, they just cannot move the ball, which is surprising because they went to the portal to get Mateer and his offensive coordinator at Washington State. And I don't know, ever since he came back from the injury, he hasn't run as much. He's not as accurate. I don't know if he's still injured. I haven't heard anything, but they are so pedestrian on offense. But their defense is rock solid. I mean, they're one of the top 3 teams in EPA on EPA per play defensively. So, but they're not going to win the national championship with that offense.
Right. So it sounds to me like the exciting teams out there that aren't in the Big Ten, which is where I'm a homer, are Miami and Texas Tech. Does that sound fair?
Yeah, it sounds fair. I would think so. I really, if people have not dug into Texas Tech, go look at a lot of the metrics offensively and defensively. And I think they have an underrated coach in Coach McGuire. But they again, all money spent in the portal sometimes doesn't work.
Right.
And it has worked out for them this year.
$40 million. That was the rumor I heard of Texas Tech's payroll run.
Oh.
We were talking about how NBA draft picks who are in the back half of the first round might just be better off going back to college and getting that payday at this point.
Oh, yeah.
If you're not a lottery pick, you should just go get 7 figures from a college team. So, yeah, that's how they're spending their money. Okay.
I think you're going to see that too. You're going to see a lot of kids if they're projected. Look at Yaxel from Michigan. He would have been drafted in the first round, but there was talks that he would be in the 18 to 23, 24 range. And the second he he went back. I just jumped on Michigan 25-1 back in May, and it looks good now. A long way to go, but he's, as you can see, he's a top 5 player in the country.
I did tail you on that one, Mike. All right. You released a very interesting article in your Substack. Folks, check it out, betsandreps.substack.com, that discussed betting bowl season. Are you actively betting these bowls, or is the chaos of college football portal season enough to say it isn't worth it at all for you?
I think a lot of handicappers are top handicappers are still looking to dig in. They like the challenge of the bowl season. It's really about information. Who can be first to the information? It's kind of like preseason football. There's no numbers involved. It's who's playing how long, listening to the coaches, what they're saying, and trying to get ahead of the market as soon as you hear something. And I think that's the same way with the bowl season. I mean, we can make adjustments if we hear, 2 top wide receivers are out, or a couple top, running backs are out. But then by that time, the market's moving, So if you can get wind of who's gonna opt out or whatever, I think the coach is leaving is kind of misplayed right now. I think a lot of people are just like, oh, if someone's leaving, oh, let's jump on the other team. I don't know. I think that was like a few years ago, but I think the market kind of knows that stuff now, and they've adjusted. You just got to be careful. If you really want to do all the digging into it, by all means do so. I'm trying to look for teams that they have the least amount of opt-outs as possible, and try to find some different motivational edges. And hopefully I can be on the right side of some games before the market moves. But it's not like, on my Substack, I released like numbers, but I specifically tell everyone, this does not include opt-outs. These are straight numbers if you use for the entire year. It's like, I didn't bet Jacksonville State tonight on the money line until like it was like a few hours before. Like probably, if it was during the season, I probably would have released that a few days prior. But I was trying to get as much information as possible, and I think it was minus 140 on the money line. I didn't want to take the minus 2.5, and I think it closed at like minus 155, maybe minus 160. So just little things like that. It's an information game. You just can't really trust your overall numbers unless you know for a fact that you've got a majority of the roster playing in those games.
Not to put you on the spot here, but give me the scout. Illinois dropped from like a 7.5 point dog to a 2.5 point dog against Tennessee in the Music City Bowl. Is that due to opt-outs? I
believe it's there's several opt-outs. I think a lot of Tennessee guys are they're jumping ship.
Okay. All right. Well,
Hammer?
I don't know. Profit X, baby. I can now predict Illinois sports. I can't bet on Illinois sports, Mike, but I can predict them now. Thank you, Profit X.
Same with New York. Can't bet on New York college sports.
All right. So we have our mucho dinero answer key, and we did fairly well. We were up a little over 2% on a pretty large sample, more than 500 bets. However, we definitely felt we had leakage in our process, primarily due to our inability to predict parent line movement. So I have 2 questions on this. First, you release your power rankings each Sunday. We don't bet into derivative markets until Tuesday. Knowing nothing else, do you think that utilizing power rankings such as yours as a directional clue to whether we can expect parent line movement in our favor or against us is valuable? Or are there too many other factors there that could get us into trouble if we applied them blindly?
It's a good question. I think with my ratings being released on Sunday it's to try to get ahead of the market. Obviously, when Circa releases them, DraftKings, FanDuel, and the other books, the derivative market I don't really dive into it that much, but if you're starting to think that maybe games are going to move in one direction, by looking at your numbers, maybe comparing them to mine or some other handicapper's numbers, it's definitely something to look into. There are a lot of factors involved because, you're trying, what if something like a few days later goes on, like injuries or something we didn't hear about or something like that, and it moves against you. But you guys crushed it. I thought, you were sending me some stuff. You guys, I think you have a pretty good process and a system that you do pretty well in. But I overall would think that just looking at specific numbers on a Sunday, I would wait a little bit, I think, for the derivative stuff.
Okay. So let me follow up on that because you've given some clues before, and even just in this conversation, that your power rankings are not your sole basis for deciding on whether or not you're going to bet a game. How do you differentiate between a line that is off because it is mispriced versus a line that is off because your power ratings may not be accounting for something?
I think what you're going to have to do is, if you're going to have to trust your numbers, you have to trust your own process. If you trust your stuff and I see a number's off by 2 points or 3 points or whatever it may be, then I'm going to hit it because I'm trusting what I'm doing in my entirety of the process that starts back in, end of May, early June. If the number for some reason changes, for example, and it goes against me, I have to then, okay, it goes against me. What's the reason? Try to find the reason. Maybe there is, just sharp players have different numbers than me. You don't know. Is there an injury? You got to figure it out. Then after that game is played, you've got to dive into the box scores. You have to really dive in. There's been times where the number has moved against me and I've won. And I said, I don't know why that number moved, whatever. My number's correct. There's been times that it moved against me and it's not correct, and I got to figure it out, and I have to trust the market with that and really adjust my numbers. You don't want to, I remember a few cases this year that I was adjusting more in weeks like 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 on some teams because I think I might have had that number inaccurate. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Where it closed and I was just, I was off. Now I got to respect that. I got to adjust that a little bit more. And then the next week that comes, let me see how my numbers balance out and what the market has the next week. And usually it kind of evens out that way. But you really, really have to do a lot of research. And for me personally is diving in, yards per play, EPA per play, turnover margin, what were the injuries, and so on and so forth. Or maybe just someone else had a different number that I was completely off on, or maybe they were completely off on. And I think, before we got on, I talked to you about the Duke and Virginia game.
Yep.
Where that started, in the ACC championship. I think it opened at 3, it moved up to 4, maybe 4.5. I can't remember where it closed, but my ratings had it even. And at this point in time, everyone's playing, quarterback's playing for Duke. I didn't hear any opt-outs or anything like that. So I have to trust my process at that time. And they had a 10-point lead, and it wasn't. You looked at the numbers within the box score. They had a legit 10-point lead, and they blew it, and it went to overtime. And I probably got a little lucky in overtime, but that was the right side. My numbers called for it. And people can say, well, you got to respect the market at 4. Yeah, you sure respect the market, but why do I want to be like the market? Then I'm never going to have any hedges. Yeah. So I'm trying to trust what I'm doing. I don't want to be like anyone else. Everyone was on Virginia that game, and I didn't release it on X, but I made a small play because, again, I got to respect the market. I don't want to go all in this late in the season, but I made a bet on Duke, and I didn't want to sound pompous or anything like that on Twitter, but I'm like, hey, if you're on my Substack, this is what my number was, right. And it's just, I don't know why. I looked at now, if they were like +4 in turnover margin or something like that, I could say, well, this is what my number was, but I think the market was more correct because they turned the ball over for, Virginia turned it over 4 times. It led to whatever amount of points, so to speak. So you just gotta trust your own process. And so many people don't trust what they do because they want, the only way you're going to learn is by failing. God, I failed 1,000,000 times, but I think I was telling you guys before we hit record, that's taken years for me to try to figure out, and now with this new transfer portal, which I'm all for, I love it. I want to see how teams react. That's why I think I was on Texas Tech at the beginning of the year. I saw their talent. Now, were they going to come together and do what they did? No one can predict that because we've seen teams spend a lot of money and not do well. But I just trusted my process, and I was fortunate that they had to have a successful season like they did.
Do you get caught up in CLV? Like, is that a metric that you care much about at all?
Should we say this on air or off air? Because, man, if I say it on air, man, I get so many people are going to jump down my throat.
Well, Mike, we would like to go viral at some point in this show.
Let's put it this way. If you've ever listened to Alan Boston, who's probably the greatest college basketball handicapper there is, he talks about, he goes, why if I trust my numbers, the numbers going one way and I have the other, and have the other way. He's like, I got to trust my process, and he's right. You got to always respect the market, but I mean, if you're going to respect it all the time, you're just going to be, there's gonna be no edges. You're not gonna have anything to, for you to bet. I mean, is it the be all end all? In my opinion, my opinion is no. CLV over the course of maybe years and years, if you're beating the closing line more and more, and you're winning, then yeah, sure, it looks great. But I think I tweeted this out in November about college basketball. It's like, if you think CLV matters in November, I mean, you guys that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
November college basketball, it's some service. And then we know the big name service. They're releasing players and they're moving them 6 points.
Yeah.
Because everyone's jumping on. What do they know? Okay, yeah, maybe they've done their work and their homework, but what if they hit 51% in November? How is that CLV?
Right.
Because they're moving numbers.
Right.
It's just, and the books are respecting what they're doing. So if like my numbers are different, I'm going to respect what I have. And then if someone tells and, well, how come the line moved 4 points against you? Well, did we win? Yeah, you won. But okay, so what are we worried about CLV for? Okay.
I love it.
Yeah, but you got, and there, people are going to say, yeah, but Mike, you got lucky. Okay, maybe I did. But how do you know what my process was to come up with that number?
Yeah.
So I tell you, you can fight about it. Is it, again, I'll say this the final time, is it the be all end all? No. Should you respect it? You have to figure out why it moved, what's happening. Is it just services moving? Is it, something? Is there an injury or whatever? And that's where the information, the handicapping comes about. You got to do your homework.
What we've said since we started this project, our golden goose is to win without CLV. Because then you're able to better disguise it. You're better able to keep your accounts fresh, all those good things. RJ, what I'm hearing here is that effective power ratings could be a valuable double check. We wouldn't want to use it as a main driver for our process or our system. But if we're concerned about, well, what if we're losing because the parent line's moving against us and we have no insight into that? Just having a logic check for us on something like that could potentially add, 1 to 2 points of ROI. And the difference in that is enormous. So I do see a value in that. I'm just not sure yet how we would implement it. We tried to, we survived the first season. Mike, we're extremely proud of ourselves for coming out ahead. Don't get me wrong, but we're trying to figure out now, what do we do to minimize the losses and maximize the gains, essentially. So, and
that's where it's like any entrepreneur who's starting their own business, you just got to take action. And you might fail, but if you can learn from why you're failing and just adjust from there. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've constantly been adjusting over this, the last several years of how I'm doing power ratings. And I respect what others are doing, but I want to do it my way. Okay. If I do what everyone else is doing, then what I could just copy and paste. I'm not doing anything that's new and potentially innovative for myself.
Yeah.
So, and for anyone who wants to tail and look at it, they, I have people question me all the time. Well, why do you have so-and-so here and here? And I'm just like, it's a process. It's how I update my stuff without giving away the secret sauce, blah, blah, blah. It's just like, there's a lot of different things that go into account, and some don't understand and you guys know, how many hours did you work on that answer key?
Oh my God.
That's what I'm saying.
A lot.
That's what I'm saying.
That's
so
why Yeah, that's why we're trying to maximize it, because it was
the hourly.
so much work for the hourly I got out of it. You know what I'm saying? But now we have it built. So like now we're moving into college basketball, and the process to get the same model up and running for college basketball was substantially shorter than it was to get it up and running for college football, because now we have that foundation. And what I expect to have happen is that it will build upon itself. Like what I'm hearing from you is a lot of self-confidence. And in our first year of modeling and originating numbers, we can't be expected to have, we would be arrogant beyond arrogant to have that level of self-confidence. My hope is that by the time we get to year 5 of this or whatever, we've got that level of self-confidence going for us.
Absolutely. And would you think I'd be that confident to be like, hey guys, you want to see my numbers, and here you go, if I haven't spent years, several years trying to perfect it, and it's never perfected, but a process that works. And if something's not working in the future, you got to figure out why. You got to adjust. Like I was saying, I mean, sometimes, in weeks 10, 11, 12, 13, you don't want to adjust your numbers too much based on scores. But if my number's completely off from the market for whatever reason, and how I updated from prior weeks, then I have to then make a bigger adjustment. That's something I've learned over the last few years is, hey man, you gotta adjust this now. It's like, and even on week 1 and 2, we all trust our numbers from all the work we've done in the off season, but you better adjust quick or it's gonna be left out. I mean, I might have missed something on a couple teams, or I might be so far ahead of the market on some teams. You gotta figure that out.
Okay,
Interesting.
this has been helpful. What I'm hearing is patience and keep building. We do those two things.
I can't wait.
One day we will be sitting like Mike, talking confidently the way he does. So
Good.
we're in good shape. All right, Mike, before we let you go, let's cover a little college basketball hoops. Due to the mucho dinero answer key and Todd Golden beating a stalking charge, I have tabled my college coaches who can't win it all model. I do have a ticket on Michigan and NC State thanks to you. But as we enter college basketball season, who are the teams you are currently high on to make a run come March?
I love Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt right now, I bet them to make the Final Four. Extremely underrated. Boynton's a tremendous coach. He came from James Madison, and their offense right now is 4th in the nation at Ken Pom in adjusted offensive rating. They have to get better defensively in order to be a title contender. I've done some research. I've got not a model, but I've dug into some numbers, historical numbers with Ken Pom of the champion winner of the past 25 national champions. And I think I've tweeted this out a few times. You kind of want to look for an adjusted offensive rating of 120, defensive rating of 90 to 91. Those are, if you go back and look, you'll see those were the teams that won the national championship. I think the conference you play in matters. I tweeted this out that Gonzaga, they're number 2 right now, but only one team has won a national championship from a conference rated below 5. That's 6, 7, 8, or 9 or whatever. And that was the 2014 UConn team that was in the American. I think that was the 7th rated, but they were the outlier for everything that year.
We have discussed that team multiple years on this show. That's the Kemba Walker show.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. But so I would be even though their ratings look great, they're 2 at Ken Pom right now. That's the one thing that would hold me back. And I know they were a game away from the undefeated season a few years ago, but they didn't win, and they lost to Baylor. They lost to North Carolina, and a few years prior to that. But some teams right now that I would take a look at besides Michigan, who's number 1. I really like. I hate to say it. I think it might be the Caleb Love effect, but I like Arizona.
I mean, they're good.
I'm not a big Tommy Lloyd fan. Everyone who knows me, I'm not the biggest Tommy Lloyd, but that might have been the Caleb Love effect for the last couple of years. Right now, they're clicking on all cylinders. They got a top freshman class. They're top 10 right now in offense and defense, but they're at the 125 mark for offense, and that's where you want to be. They're still pretty good defensively, 92.6. They're a little above the median past champions at 90.6. The lowest ever for defense was 94. I believe it was the 2018 Villanova Wildcats. They were I'm looking right now. Yeah, they were 2018. They had the lowest defensive rating at 94. So, and I think UConn in 2014 had the lowest offensive rating. Now, these numbers obviously are going to change throughout the year.
Right. Yeah.
You could have teams. This is what happens. This is for the champion. These numbers are going to change.
Yeah.
If you can, think, well, okay, Michigan State, they're not too far off from that 120 range. They're, God, there's so many good offensive teams this year. They have an offensive rating of 118.6, and they're 44th in the country. Back in the day, if 118.6 would be like, top 15. Yeah. But if they can they have the defense, they obviously have the coach. So if they can get to that next level offensively, so those are some of the things that possibly take a look at. I think Purdue's really, really good. They've got a ton of returning production. They got a great coach. And they have to get better defensively, though.
Iowa State just lit them up, didn't they?
Yeah.
Do you like Iowa State?
I worry about Iowa State when they get into conference play. How are they? I know it's a one game. They did beat Purdue pretty handily, but we have to let's see them consistently do it in conference play. I worry about even though they're right now they're 11th. Well, they're 11th because they're beating up bad teams besides Purdue. I mean, they have a non-conference schedule of 169. Michigan has a non-conference schedule, according to Ken Pom, at 9.
Right.
Alabama is number 2 in non-conference. So, I mean, they're all those teams are playing really, really tough non-conference games. So I would worry a little bit about Iowa State. I think offensively they will regress a little bit. Connecticut's right there, guys, right there. They have the metrics, they have the numbers, they have the coach, they have the history. So
they have the win over Illinois.
They have the win over Illinois.
What do you think of Brad Underwood? Is he underperforming or is he doing a good job?
I think he's doing a good job. I mean, they're trying to. He went out and he got all those European guys. They got another one coming in January. I just saw a kid from Croatia. Yeah, it's like it's the wild, wild west. Can we start? We're pulling in guys from at any time coming in, guys. We'll pay you enough money. You come play for us. But no, I think he's doing an admirable job. They're number 2 in offense right now. Just defensively, they've got to get a lot better defensively. He's good. I like him.
That midseason take for everyone who's up in arms about it has nothing to do with that kid. That midseason take, his agent is the same agent who keeps feeding us all the other Eastern European players, and we're hot and heavy for another kid this offseason who played on his team. So this is take this kid at midseason. He's probably not even going to play for us for a couple of years in terms of getting off the bench. And so that this offseason we get the guy who we really are wanting.
Fascinating.
That's the state of college basketball. That right there just kind of illuminates it for you.
That's how you get this. That's how you get the next guy from Croatia.
It's the wild, wild west.
Yes. How does betting college basketball differ from betting college football? I'm mostly worried about the 24-hour cycle of college hoops lines versus the 7-day cycle for college football, but we've never done the model. So is there any advice you can give us from that regard?
I would think the best thing you can do is if you're someone who has good numbers, you trust your numbers, try to bet as early as possible. You're probably not going to get as much down earlier, like overnights or early in the morning, but you might be able to get a little bit bigger edges that way. If you're, obviously, if your edges are smaller, you're betting later in the day, but you're getting a lot more down. That obviously that's good too. But I just think with 366 games, that there's so much information out there, and if you can be the first to get information on on injury or something like that, and jump on it. But it's tough, man, when you don't have those 7 days like in football, like you said, man, you gotta work around the clock, so I mean, as I was telling you guys, I don't do a lot of college basketball. I've dabbled in a little bit in November and December, but I'll probably within the next 2 weeks whip out the model I kind of use and just kind of go from there. But the one nice thing about college basketball is there's just so many different situational spots that you can look at. There's you'll hear them all on all the shows. I don't need to go over it, but there's a lot of spots you can jump on situationally. But if you get a key injury like tonight Tennessee was playing Louisville, and the Louisville point guard, the freshman, he was declared out, and Tennessee's coming off 3 straight losses, and they're at home. I mean, they're probably going to get their A effort, and Louisville, not to say that they weren't going to, it's not like a pass game or anything like that, but they didn't play well and they got crushed by Tennessee tonight. So, you got to find little spots like that. Travel could be big. How many road games are they playing? Back to back. Are they playing 3 straight road games? Little things like that. But I tell you, it's hard, man. It's really hard to try to, I would just say maybe pick 5 or 6 conferences, like mid-tier conferences, not so much like the extra games, because you might not be able to get as much down in the extra games, but maybe something like the Mountain West or the American, and just kind of focus on that. Try to, follow beat writers and follow numbers from different, Sagarin's good and team rankings. And, there's a lot of different places you can find it. If I'll admit, I'm not the best with numbers in college basketball. It's not like football. The reason being, I don't put the off season work in. That's why I don't do a lot of November and December college basketball betting. So when January hits, I have a model and I will plug in numbers from various sites, but I also have some other things that I do and look at. And like I said, if they match up within the situations, I tell you, I don't know how they do it. 365 teams, man. I don't know how they do it.
Right. And that's one of the things we got to figure out, how to get the bets that are actionable quicker and with less work. Because for college football, you can put some manual work into running through the entire slate for a week. It's 7 days and there's only 50 some games most weeks. College basketball, we're not sure how we're even going to pull this off from a logistics point of view. So that's great.
I know, man. It's a lot of work. But if you can, like I said, if you could find those edges in maybe the mid-tier conferences, and your volume might be down a little bit, but your sanity might be intact.
Yeah. One last question on this, just because you do, in January, February, you're watching the board, you're seeing a lot of games. Elihu mentioned specific to our tool, Elihu Fustel, for those who don't know, if you haven't heard of him by now on this show.
Wow. Your first episode.
He mentioned head fakes as a more serious problem for betting our answer key tool, because we're so reliant on those parent lines. How common are line movements that aren't real in college basketball? Is it something that you see every day? And if it is, do you not just hammer it right away when you see it? Or is it hard to know?
I think it's based on what's your number compared to what the market has early in the day. So if I need a certain number, if I know I need a team +6 or something like that, and I need to move it, then you're gonna place as many little wagers as you can, and hoping that line's going to get to where you need to then pound the other side, obviously. But, you can also then just kind of maybe hedge out of it, if you need to do that as well. But I think it's starting to become more and more common, because people are getting limited at all these books. They're not able to put a lot of money down. So they're like, okay, the DKs and all these other places, I'm gonna bet a little bit early, and then I'm gonna hit some other books, and then when it comes back, then I'm gonna go to Circa, and I'm gonna try to see how much I can get if you're in Vegas or whatever, or Iowa or wherever with Circa. I'm just using Circa as an example, because they're a sharp book, and try to come back when you can get down more at one of those books, or Pinnacle Offshore, Bookmaker, places like that. So I think that's what a lot of the pros are doing now.
Okay. Any other advice for us before we wrap this up on college basketball?
College basketball? Just keep, there's so many, Bartovic site's great, Haslametric site, Evan Maya's site's great. I just, the Godfather's KenPom. I just, like I said, I keep looking. It's every day. It's looking at KenPom, see what numbers adjusted, seeing who, you always follow the injuries, because if some major player's out, and he's out 2 or 3 games, maybe the market doesn't adjust, or maybe not even a major player. Maybe it's like the third leading scorer, the third rebounder, or the second rebounder, and you think it should be the market's not accounting for that. Maybe you jump on that for a few games and see how it goes. But the best thing about college basketball, it's every day, and there's so many teams. So if you want to dive in on a weekend and there's 100,000 games on Saturday, then you could have a crappy 12 o'clock Eastern to 3 o'clock, but man, you could have a great 4 to 10 o'clock.
Outside of Saturday, is Tuesday the busiest day?
It used to be Wednesday, right?
Wednesday.
Or is it now? Yeah, it used to be.
I can't figure it out. It's one of those two. It's not Thursday.
It's either Tuesday or Wednesday. I just remember back in the day it was Wednesday and Saturdays were the two biggest.
So maybe that's what we need to do. We need to focus on 2 days of the week, give our brains a rest, and tack the heavy slates when they hit in the morning.
Can't wait to try it.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sure your family will love that.
Yeah. The Saturday is the problem. I can get away with the Wednesday. I don't know if I can get away with the Saturday.
That's right.
All right, Mike. I don't think we asked you this yet, so let's wrap up with our favorite question. Have you ever been kicked out of a casino or come close?
Have not.
Wow. Kudos to you.
No.
We've had a lot of guests on who've been kicked out for being too smart. Ourselves, we've been kicked out for being too dumb. So we always like to ask the question and see what happens. Alcohol may be involved occasionally. I don't know.
Might be. Yeah, that might have something to do with it. But no, not yet. I try to keep a low profile. I'm not one that likes to get escorted out of places.
Good work.
Well, we love it.
Yeah.
All right, that's going to do it for us, folks. Very big thank you to Mike for joining us again and sharing his wisdom. Don't forget to check out his Substack, betsandreps.substack.com, or hit him up on Twitter @betsandreps. Good juju to your bets, everyone, and we'll talk again soon.